They're calling it prophecy, specifically the Purim prophecy, the defeat of Persia. While the world holds its breath fearing World War III, a massive voting bloc in this country is holding its breath hoping for it. Today we are cutting through the noise. We're going to look at how a fringe theology infiltrated the White House, why peace-loving Christians are cheering for airstrikes, and the dangerous hypocrisy of a movement that claims to follow Jesus while arming fighter jets. I'm David Tomsic, and this is Loud and Clear. Now, you might think foreign policy is decided by generals and diplomats. That's the official story, but for the last decade, the world influence has come from the pulpit. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's a matter of public record. During the Trump administration, we saw an unprecedented open door for evangelical leaders. Pastors like John Hagee didn't just pray for the president, they advised him on the Middle East. They successfully lobbied for the Jerusalem embassy to be moved, not based on security, but on the Jubilee calendar. And this influence has metastasized. It's no longer just evangelicals. We now see Catholics, mainline Protestants, and even secular conservatives adopting this holy war mindset. Why? Because this evangelical theology has now entered the mainstream legacy churches. Kirk Cameron's Left Behind movies have fascinated the imaginations of millions of Americans with the idea of the rapture and Israel's important role in end times prophecy. When your political identity becomes your religion, you stop listening to your pope or your bishop or maybe even your friends, and you start listening to right-wing Christian nationalist leaders like Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and current Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee. And we can't forget the Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. They are all telling you that bombing Iran is a spiritual victory. The infiltration is complete. The State Department has been outflanked by the Prophecy Conference. And by the way, if you enjoy our content, please consider subscribing to our channel. Hit that like button and share the video with your family and friends. And by the way, I will give you some of my personal thoughts at the end of this video, and I will talk to you about what I believe is happening amongst Christian nationalists and the war with Iran. This all comes down to the theology of transaction. So what are they buying? Let's go to Genesis 12:3. The verse says, "I will bless those who bless you." This is the bedrock of Christian Zionism, by the way. It's a transactional theology. It says America is failing, our economy is shaky, our culture is crumbling, but if we stand with Israel unconditionally, God must bless us. And the flip side, I will curse those who curse you. This is why they support the war on Iran. It's fear. They believe if America hesitates, if we don't strike Persia, which is Iran, we lose our divine protection. It's not about national security. It's about fire insurance. And this brings me to the crime scene, the death of irony. On Sunday morning, they open this book. They read about the Prince of Peace. They read the Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are the peacemakers. Love your enemies. Turn the other cheek. But on Monday morning, they cheer for this. They justify the bombings of schools and hospitals. They excuse alleged war crimes as necessary roughness in God's plan. And look at who they follow politically. They have tied their moral authority to a man who is a convicted felon, a man whose life, by any biblical standard, is the antithesis of the fruit of the Spirit. How do they justify it? The King Cyrus defense. They say God uses flawed vessels. Cyrus was a pagan king, but he saved Israel. It's a brilliant excuse. It allows them to ignore the felony convictions, the rhetoric, and the chaos as long as the political leader delivers the biblical war they want. This is the double-minded man the book of James warns us about, unstable in all his ways. You cannot claim to follow the Lamb of God while worshiping the war horse. Jesus had a phrase for religious leaders who looked righteous but were full of rot. He called them whitewashed tombs. Beautiful on the outside, dead on the inside. If our foreign policy is driven by a theology that craves the end times, we aren't looking for a solution, we are looking for an ending. And if we aren't careful, we're going to get it. This is Loud and Clear. And remember, if you want the truth, you have to read the footnotes. I want to thank everybody who has joined me by subscribing. Thank you for those who watch. And thank you for watching this video to the end. I have some more thoughts here outside of my analysis that I want to talk about on this topic. Now, as many of you know, I was involved in evangelical Christianity for many, many years, and I bought into these prophecies hook, line, and sinker. Now, I don't want to berate anybody who believes in these prophecies. It's not for me to tell you what to believe. I know Jesus will return someday. When that is, I have no idea, and it's not my concern. Now, I stopped believing in a lot of this stuff when I realized that there was something wrong with our foreign policy. I began to look beneath the mainstream media's shoddy reporting and Congress's unwavering support of these wars in the Middle East. I realized that this was flat out crazy. I had to confront my own beliefs and prejudices and take a long, hard look at the kind of person I really was. Was I someone who thought it's okay to bomb hospitals and schools because we were told that there were terrorists hiding in them? I have to ask you, Christians, is this scorched earth tactic what Jesus would want you to do? Is this what he wants to give you blessings on? I don't think so. I sought out and found alternative news reporters that were actually on the ground in the war zone, and they showed a lot different war than the one we were told about in our mainstream news broadcasts. And before some of you tell me that those people are plants or they just hate Israel and the U.S., think again. Just for your information, there are plenty of legitimate, honest, and brave people from around the world that go into these war zones to get the story. I mean, inside the danger zone. They risk life and limb. Not just given pre-written press releases from the Pentagon or from the Israeli Defense Forces. My point here is that I had to reevaluate my understanding of who Jesus really is. Evangelicals never talk about how Jesus was not like anyone else who ever lived. His teachings didn't tell us to bomb hospitals and schools, to lie about the reasons for going to war, to justify the killing of unarmed women and children, to try to overthrow governments and kill another nation's religious leaders. And in the case here in the U.S., Donald Trump's actions in taking us to war with Iran are without a doubt, no questions asked, undeniably an impeachable offense. Don't pass go. Every legal scholar will make this point. Evangelicals and anybody else who believes what's happening in Iran is God's will can believe what they want. The U.S. government and Israel started this war. They put our military, our allies, our country, and our economy in harm's way. They drew first blood, and now the chickens have come home to roost. Trump's quick victory plan is down the toilet, and as usual, he has no plan B. The war is already an unmitigated disaster. Our bases across the region are in ruins. Lives have been lost. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. Our Navy ships are going from port to port trying to get out of the range of Iranian missiles. This war is far from over, and right now there seems to be no way out. For those of us who know the truth, we must pray that our nation finally rises up against tyranny and tries to bring back the rule of law, not just here in the U.S., but for the rest of the world. And oh yes, don't forget to pray, not for the end of the world, but that we finally stop the endless wars the U.S. has rained down upon the world for the last 70 years. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy our content, please like, subscribe, and share. Remember to love your neighbor as yourself, and I'll see you next time right here on Loud and Clear.